How you doing, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Wicked New England. Here are my co-hosts.
Anthony.
John.
All right. So when you're lazy on a weekend, you got nothing better to do, or during the week, doesn't really have to be the weekend, whenever you want to be a vegetable.
Or whenever you want to be a vegetable because you just had enough of the work week, and you just want to crash and just vegetate for a little while.
Or your boss isn't looking and you got a couple hours to kill and you don't have a firewall at work that prevents you. You want to watch a movie. You want to check it out, right? Check out a new film. So we're actually going to talk about some of the newer ones we've watched here recently. These guys are going to bring up some of the ones they've watched too. One, I'm just going to go right off the rip and start out with. So I just watched the new Twisters movie. And I don't know what kind of reviews it's been getting or whatever. Honestly, I really could care less. But I rated it equal, I would say, to the original. It was that good, which... Usually I don't say that about sequels, especially legacy sequels that come out years later, because a lot of times I'm like, all right, somebody's just milking the cow for some money. But honestly, they did a great job with the story. Special effects, soundtrack was killer. Like, soundtrack was freaking awesome, especially if you like country music. If you don't like country music, you're going to think the soundtrack sucks.
Yeah, but that's kind of the similar to the same as the first, because the first one had a great soundtrack. Yeah,
first one good soundtrack, but more rock.
It was more like rock.
Clapton, Hendrix, Van Halen, you know what I mean? This one, I mean, you got Chris Stapleton, Luke Bryan, you know what I mean? All, new people, old people. It's really great. No, great movie overall. I'm trying not to give away like spoilers or nothing like that, but definitely.
I haven't seen the movie.
I would say
he has a
check
spoiler.
It out.
I'm kicking his ass on camera.
Glenn Powell does an amazing freaking job. Like, he makes that movie for me. Like, he's an awesome actor. He's not really as big as some of the other ones in Hollywood right now, but I'd say really starting with Top Gun Maverick is when he really started to really come out of his shell. But I mean, he's done other things.
But he's also
done
another movie. I can't think of the name of it. It's a comedy. Him and the girl hate each other, but yet they're supposed to pretend to like each other for the sake of
I think I know
relationships. I can't remember the name of the movie. I have not seen that movie. I kind of almost want to, only because I know him as an actor.
Yeah,
and not to mention it's kind of out of the realm from Top Gun Maverick, and from what I'm understanding, his role of Twister is of kind of that action star almost. And it's more of a comedic role. So I'm kind of wanting to look at that one. But I am looking forward to seeing Twisters. I want to see the movie. So
he plays kind of like a smart ass, which I like because I can emulate with that. You know what I mean? I can relate to that a lot, right? He's very confident. Like, this isn't going to spoil anything, but basically his role in it. So there's some people that are storm chasers and some people that are like professionals and doctorates and stuff like that. He's actually a YouTube star in the movie, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, so obviously right off the bat, right, I'm like, oh man, that's my dog. No, but
because he's right where we all want to try to be.
That's it, man. YouTube famous, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. YouTube famous.
Who doesn't want to be YouTube famous?
It's an awesome movie though. It's a hell of a ride. Lot more action, I would say, than the original one. A little bit more comedic in spots, but in a good way, like not like over the top, like trying to be a comedy, but like, like I said, he's a smart ass, so I mean that definitely comes across. So he's got that fun.
There was some semi-comedic aspects in the first one,
and it helps break the tension.
Yes.
Which is good too. It's
especially when you're dealing with the life and death aspect of going into a tornado.
And they definitely have those big tornado scenes too, like reminiscent
those live up to the first one?
Yes, and then some, honestly, in some cases. But I mean, reminiscent of like that drive-through scene in the first one. They have another one that's close to that. Sorry, guys, you actually hear my son out there outside the door. Filming right now, but it's okay. And moving on from that, which one do you guys pick another movie? We'll keep this thing going.
I'm going to go with one that these guys haven't seen yet. The Shift. Christopher Poloha, and I believe I can't remember the other individual's name, but fantastic movie. A little bit on a religious aspect, but it's kind of almost like an angels and demons kind of, or belief in faith of God, if you would.
I think that I saw the trailer for that one maybe like on my Facebook. Like I kept seeing it and it looked kind of interesting.
It is very interesting, fantastic story, and basically it's kind of like a time loop aspect, something I think we've kind of touched base on previous podcasts of potential of different dimensions. And where the devil just shifts the same you to your place while you go off to another dimension and you're living the same life because everything's kind of intertwined in a way where it's so close but yet different, and you wouldn't realize, so you're going to react however things are reacting to you. And it's interesting, and basically the story is he's just trying to get home, trying to be back with his wife who he got taken away from. And there's an underlining story in there that I'm not going to tell you guys. But, yeah, it was a very interesting movie. I would highly recommend, if I was to give it a 1 to 5 star rating, I would definitely say at least 4.5 stars to 5 stars.
That definitely sounds very
Yeah, it
interesting.
sounds interesting. Definitely has like a whole like Inception kind of vibes to it, like the way it sounded there with the whole loop aspect. But
you gotta really sit down, watch it in full. I know I did yesterday, and it was just interesting. I just didn't feel like I wanted to get up. If I had to use the bathroom for any reason, I paused it. Amazon digital, it works great. You can pause the movie. You don't have to worry about missing something. Don't worry about watching stuff live anymore. It's great. But yeah, it's definitely something you didn't want to miss. It kept me on the edge of my seat.
You know, so for my pick, originally I was going to talk about Mad Max Fury Road because I had watched that for the first time. Overall, I think so. I kind of write down my own reviews of how I feel about movies.
He is that guy.
It's just
there's nothing wrong with that guy.
You know, I gave that one a 7.5 out of 10 for my watch through, just because I had a fun time watching it. But I think I'm actually going to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once. I also watched that one very recently. I thought that was a really good movie, and my favorite part about the movie is their take on the multiverse. Because essentially the premise, without giving anything away, is this lady who is kind of sucked into a multiversal battle of sorts with her family. I don't want to give too much away just because you should try to get the full effect of the movie. I believe it's an A24 film as well, which is pretty cool. I mean,
yeah, they're a good production company.
I'm always blown away by their movies, really.
Even their horror movies, too.
Right.
Triple X, I mean, Pearl was really good. I haven't got a chance to see Maxine yet, but I definitely want to see that one. And, I mean, Hereditary, you know. Midsummer didn't really hit the mark for me.
See, I liked it.
It was good.
Yeah.
It kind of wigged me out a little bit, which is why I didn't like it. Like, it was just... That one was the weirder of the bunch, for sure.
It made me uncomfortable my first watch through. My second watch through is where I was like, oh, okay. Now let's actually watch it and not just get creeped out by everything.
Yeah.
No, but A24 does a good job. They really do. They still have some movies that I need to watch. But
and actually, one of their other movies is one we're going to be talking about with Anthony.
Yes.
Actually, next.
That we watched. You haven't seen yet, so again,
no, it's alright. Yeah, no spoilers, but
no spoilers. But Everything Everywhere All at Once. If I had to give that one a rating, I'd say 8.5.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that movie, and I would say that it's definitely worth a watch and potentially even a rewatch. But next, something that Anthony and I have both seen. So sorry, Andrew.
No, hey,
It was going to be my next one too. So
I spend
share
most of
this
my
one.
time watching horror movies, so sometimes I have such a big list, but then I keep putting off all the ones that aren't a horror, and so sometimes, unfortunately, that means it's a while before I get to certain watches. But this one here, so
this one I think you might have to bump to closer to the
yeah,
top.
the
And
priority
this is
list.
Civil War. Fairly new movie. Came out just, I believe, at the end of last year or beginning of this year.
Beginning of this
Something
year.
around there,
It
yeah.
was beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Basically, it's exactly as you sound. Here, it's a civil war. The United States is at war with the United States. And it's kind of interesting to see things pan out. It's interesting to watch the possibilities of how things could pan out. And it's very scary because it does hit a lot closer to home. I mean, you're on continental United States. You're fighting your fellow countrymen. It's a different aspect, and I think for me it hit close to home only because I think we're kind of heading in that direction. As much as I don't want to say that right now in political aspects, but yeah, it was an interesting watch, and the basis of the movie though is, without giving any spoilers, you're following the press. Now, a lot of things have been said in current relations as far as like false information, the press is all bad and whatnot. If you're watching the movie, the press is actually kind of the good guys in this aspect. They are actually trying to get real news, and in some aspects they have their own political agenda. I think you might see at the end where they're just happy to see things kind of come to a close. But it's a good movie to watch. It's fascinating. It's interesting. There is a lot going on, and I believe the runtime on the movie is just under 2 hours. It's, I think, an hour 56, an hour 57 minutes, or something like that. But it is a highly recommended movie, especially by me, to watch and give it a view. Let your mind wander on the thoughts.
So now, when I watched this movie, I purposely didn't really see any trailers. I've been trying to stay away from a lot of trailers, especially for movies that I really want to watch. That way I kind of go in blind.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I use the trailer to decide if I want to watch a movie or not.
And ironically, I don't think the trailers gave much away to what that movie showed. No.
But that's how I find a lot of my movies, though.
Because I would say the one trailer that I did see, my expectation wasn't really a press focus. So I thought it was going to focus more on the actual Civil War, not on the people covering the Civil War.
And that's kind of my aspect, too.
So that was my expectation going into the movie. Of course, you guys might be saying to yourselves, okay, how'd you get that from the trailer? Again, I tried to stay away as much as possible. But overall, I thought it was a very interesting premise. I liked how they kind of skirted away from politics by making it its own problems that happened in the movie. But the way that they portrayed the people and how people would react in these situations was honestly really fantastic. I thought they did a fantastic job making this movie.
It was kind of scary as well.
It was,
because I can see that happening. I know I was kind of tensed up watching it, almost the entire time through beginning to end. But yeah, I mean, overall, I honestly didn't get too much of the press aspect either. I was thinking I was going to see a lot of the politics. If y'all looking at the political aspect of this movie, you're not really going to see it. You might see a little glimpse of things that have happened, but it's the trailers kind of mislead you in a little bit of a way, and I kind of like that, because when I watched the movie, it put me in a different mindset, and it made me like really pay attention to what was happening to these individuals, what was going on to these individuals, and it almost made me feel like what they were feeling, their mindset, their attitude towards things, and it does really put you in that spot, which I kind of like when I'm watching a movie.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. Whenever a story is gripping enough to really pull you in and make you associate and love those characters, it's going to resonate with you that much more, you know. So another movie I watched recently actually is Sound of Freedom, which actually took me a while to get around to watching. Once again, not a horror movie, so it kept moving its way down the list. So we just watched that, I want to say, it was like 3 weeks ago. Watched that for the first time, and now I will say, like, have you guys watched that movie?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I've got it on Blu-ray. It's still sitting on the shelf. It's been sitting there for a few months, and I'm hesitant only because I know what the story is based off of, and I kind of have I have a strong feeling prior to hearing anything from you, who kind of gave me that little hint of how in depth the story was going to go.
Yeah. So,
but overall, I do plan on sitting down eventually and watching it, but I just I just need to make sure I'm in the right mindset to sit down and watch that kind of film.
I can tell you I went through a little bit more bourbon than I normally do when sitting down to watch a movie when I watched that one. But I will say this, like, as a father, that movie made my skin crawl. Like, the first, definitely, like, 30, 40 minutes or so, for sure. Like, that was uncomfortable almost trying to get through it because of how real it is and, like, just visceral with what they're showing you and how they're portraying it and the facts that they're giving you. And in reality, it's all, for the most part, true, you know? I mean, even though it is a Hollywood production, it's still a very real issue, you know what I mean? And definitely, like I said, I mean, you don't have to be a parent to feel that way, but I mean, for me as a parent, I definitely hit home.
Does it still classify as a Hollywood production when even Hollywood turned their back on it and said, yeah, this isn't happening?
Well, it's produced by Angel Studios, so I mean, it's still a Hollywood movie studio.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? So, I mean, and that was produced by the same people that did The Shift, actually.
Yes.
So, but no, it's a very good movie. And at the end, you know, it's like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything. I think you should watch it. I think everybody should watch it. I think it's relevant to today, for sure. But about what's really going on in the world. But yeah, it's just very impactful with the way they portray it. And once again, with the characters and everything is so real that you have no choice but to kind of get sucked in and kind of start, you know.
I forget the name of the actor that played the main role.
Jim Caviezel. He's actually the one who played Jesus Christ in Passion of the Christ. But yeah, no, it's based on a true story, true person actually that they portrayed in the movie, but very good. Just it's very dark in the beginning is all I will say. You know what I mean? It does lighten up a little bit. You know, and it gets to like a spot where like some of it is actually kind of fun watching how they do it at the end, like how they kind of go about resolving the issue, if you will, with that particular case. But the beginning part is very dark, very dark. But hey, great movie though, definitely. I would probably give that a solid 4.5 out of 5. You know what I mean? And yeah, definitely check it out.
So we're going back to the list.
Back to the
list.
To the
I
well.
actually, so
To the well.
I have a specific separate list for westerns.
Yes.
Most recently, I went with the Dollars trilogy. Clint Eastwood.
Yes. Great movies, folks. Hopefully you've seen them. I hope
Classics.
everybody has. If not, definitely check them out, especially if you like westerns in any shape or form. They're amazing. They still
Fantastic. I would say this trilogy, so it was free on Amazon, I think, for a little while. I don't know if it still is, but I kind of just took a moment. I had to watch it. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and pick The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now, I write a little blurb of what I was feeling in the moment, and this is all I wrote. When someone says Western movie, this is exactly what comes to mind. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
I think when people think of a Western, what comes to mind is Clint Eastwood with the poncho, you know, flat top cowboy hat, pulling off the bulletproof vest that's like a boiler door, if you will, makeshift bulletproof vest. You know what I mean? That's what you think of, you know, shootout in the middle of the street. That's the vibes, you know, out in the middle of the desert, you know.
Classic films. Unfortunately, I can't remember off the top of my head the films themselves. I should be dragged out and shot for that one. But
I might have to let you borrow something from the library.
Just to read.
I know I've seen all the Clint Eastwood movies. I've seen the Dirty Harry movies. I've seen a lot of the westerns that he's done. So I mean, I know there's no way I've missed these films. I just can't, unfortunately, remember them at this point in time. Maybe it's my old age kicking in.
Overall,
Well,
I'd say
still-
very fun movies.
Check it out again. You know, I would say watch again, especially if you like westerns. So I haven't watched it yet, but I will be watching it this week. Is Horizon, new
Still need
Kevin
to see
Costner
that.
one. So on the next podcast, I will happily, well, not the next one we film, but one of the next ones you'll see. I will definitely talk about that and my thoughts on it for sure. Any other movies you guys want to touch base on?
Those are pretty much all the ones that I've newly watched recently.
Okay.
You know what? I took liberties of watching 3 different movies over the weekend, so I'm going to mention this last one, and this one was Passengers, I believe, with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. Lawrence Fishburne has a very small role in the film, but it was interesting. It was a free-to-watch movie on Amazon Prime, and it just struck me as odd as I was flipping through different things, and for whatever reason, I get a lot of different variety in my Prime membership on Amazon Prime. So this one popped up, and it was almost like it struck me more of a sci-fi aspect, but it struck me a bit strange because it came up as like romance, passion, and strange. These were the 3 categories of how the movie was listed. And now, yes,
it does
the
sum
movie
it up pretty closely to be.
The movie was a little bit strange. But I also bring it up because during lunch, as I'm explaining to these guys what I watched, I found out they both saw the same movie. So
I actually own this movie. It is in the library.
I'm curious to know your opinions on this movie because I actually thought it was a real good movie. I thought it was fantastic and well written, and as well as performed.
Yeah, I mean, I love science fiction movies, so a lot of the movies set in space and so forth, like, I'm probably going to watch anyway. You know what I mean? Like, when I originally saw the preview before I watched that movie, you know, I knew it was going to be a love story to some degree, but I never really got the vibes that was the overpowering element to it, so I didn't really care. I was like, whatever, you know, and I checked it out. But no, I think they did an amazing job. The sets were done great, you know, kind of without giving too much of away. Like, it almost has shades of The Martian in there, like that whole living in space alone kind of aspect to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, without going into all the details and stuff like that, you know, there's definitely some of that there. You know, Jennifer Lawrence, super hot. So that's another reason I wanted to watch it. All right, can't deny that she's definitely on the top 10 list there. Yes. Jennifer Lawrence.
I would definitely say so.
You know, and for the ladies, you guys got Chris Pratt in there. So if you're digging Owen from Jurassic Park, he's in there too. You can watch that. And this is after he dropped all the weight from The Office. So
Parks and Rec.
Sorry, Parks and Rec. My bad. I always, to be fair, I didn't really watch all the episodes of The Office, Parks and Rec, Scrubs, any of those shows. I've watched episodes here and there, so I always mix up The Office and Parks and Rec. Religiously, I mix them up. All the time, people fucking scream at me and they get pissed off.
Close.
They set place in an office, guys. It's the same damn show. It's just a different group of funny people in each one.
They are somewhat close.
One sells paper products, one doesn't. It's a office humor. That's what it is. Okay, so yell at me all you want. You know what I mean?
I'll yell at you off camera.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's all the same.
What was your take on that movie, John?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the first time I watched it,
I'll give it a 3.5. I will say that.
Out of 5.
3.5 out of 5. I'm not gonna call it a 4.5. You know what I mean? And the reason I say this is because if I rate it a 4.5, it's probably a movie I'm gonna watch once or twice a year. You know what I mean? I watched the movie twice, I think, now total since it's been out, and I think that movie came out probably going on 10 years ago now, maybe.
Oh wow, yeah. Something
Think about that, right?
It's an older movie.
Well, no, yeah, that's my point.
Unfortunately, that was my first. This past weekend was the first time I actually saw it. I honestly never heard of the movie prior to it just popping up on my feed in Amazon, and I'm like, hey, you know what? This sounds interesting. How about that? So, but honestly, I mean, I would agree with a lot more with you. 3.5, maybe a 4. I would definitely want to give it a watch again for a second time.
I think if I asked you a year from now, I think you would say closer to 3.5.
Yeah.
Unless you watched it again.
Yeah,
it's still fresh in your mind. So
That's
it's still,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And movies do that to you. Because, I mean, I've had movies that I've rated a 5, walking out of the theater, watched it again as a rental, and went God, I liked that.
Listen,
you know what I mean? It just sometimes...
I know I might get crap for this, but I thought Forrest Gump, the first time I saw it, was a great movie. And then I watched it for a second time, and I was like, why did I watch this movie to begin with?
See, I
That's
watched
crazy.
I watched Forrest Gump the first time, and I thought it was a great movie. And then I watched it the second time, and I thought it was an amazingly great movie. And then I watched it another time, and I thought it was an epic movie. And that just hasn't changed for me.
Yeah, I really
Uh,
like Forrest Gump.
I have to disagree with Anthony
I'm
on this
sorry.
one. I'm not going to call you crazy. I will just say I disagree.
I'm gonna call you crazy.
Forrest
I don't
Gump
know how.
is easily in my probably top 5 for movies, period,
Yeah.
of all time.
I really like that
I-
movie a lot.
There's like...
They do it to torture me, guys.
I really don't. I don't. It's actually my girlfriend's favorite movie. Actually, like it's Sarah's favorite.
Understandable. I mean,
You know what I mean? It's that good.
Listen, it had great parts, it had great actors, but overall story, I think there was something missing in the story.
It's like watching a history book though. Like I guess that's for me. That's why I like it. It's got history. It's got a great soundtrack. You know what I mean? It's got
Oh,
like
the soundtrack's up.
I love almost
that.
almost all movies that like touch base on Vietnam for me are always a hit anyway. I just love that era of like time. You know what I mean? Those 60s.
Yeah, I get it.
and,
I
like, 70s.
understand it.
But yeah, no. So Forrest Gump for me, I'll give like a 15 out of 10. But
and I think his take on everything that happens is just it's awesome.
but it's all
awesome
right
to
though.
watch.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of movies that I'm gonna watch that like Anthony would hate or dislike. It's same thing with John, for that matter. We don't always agree on the movies either. I mean, at all. So I mean, but one thing we do agree on is our favorite Harry Potter movie, which is
Yeah,
Goblet of Fire.
Goblet of Fire.
Okay, so I do got a question for you though, and I think I'm not gonna like the answer he gives me. Anthony actually hasn't seen one of these, so I don't know if he'll be able to answer or not, but we'll see. I still want to get the opinion. You're stranded on a desert island. Okay, you're never gonna leave the island again. That's it. It's fate. Whatever. You could take one movie franchise with you. However, you have to choose between either The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter.
Oh, that's easy.
He's picking Lord of the
Lord
Rings.
of the
I
Rings.
can already tell.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So
easy.
I would actually pick Harry Potter over The Lord of the Rings.
I respect that.
You
I
know.
respect-
Alright, guys. So that's about all we have for this episode of Wicked New England. So we're going to wrap up here, and we'll say catch us on the next one.
I'm Anthony.
Bye, guys.
Take it easy, guys.